show you. But this is very top security stuff. Because if people knew how we did it, then everyone would do it. Then our enemies would do it. We can't let our enemies get their hands on this.
Get their hands on what?
Butch?
Dude.
Butch, stop watching TV a second.
Yeah?
This is how we know
We got a
who's
special
friend,
visitor.
Who's not. How we know who's sleeping and who's awake.
Now, do you remember when I told you that your daddy died in a POW camp? Well, this here is Captain Coons. He was in the POW camp with your daddy.
Hello, little man. Boy, I sure heard a bunch about you. See, I was a good friend of your dad's. We were in that Hanoi Pill of Hell together for over 5 years. Hopefully, you won't have to experience this yourself, but when two men are in a situation like me and your dad were for as long as we were, you take on certain responsibilities of each other. If it had been me who had not made it, Major Coolidge would be talking right now to my son, Jim. But the way it turned out, I'm talking to you. Butch, I got something for you. This watch I got right here was the first purchased by your great-grandfather during the First World War. It was bought in a little general store in Knoxville, Tennessee, made by the first company to ever make wristwatches. You see, up until then, people just carried around pocket watches. It was bought by a private doughboy, Ernie Coolidge, the day he set off sail for Paris. This was your great-granddaddy's war watch. He wore this watch every day. He was in the war. Then, when he was done his duty, he went home to your great-grandmother, took the watch off his wrist, and put it in an old coffee can. And there the can had stayed until your grandfather, Dane Coolidge, was called on upon his country to go overseas and fight the Germans once again. This time they called it World War II. Your great-grandfather gave it to your granddad for good luck. Unfortunately, Dane's luck wasn't as good as his old man's. Dane was a Marine, and he was killed along with all the other Marines at the Battle of Wake Island. Your granddad was facing death, he knew it. None of those boys had any illusions about ever leaving that island alive. So 3 days before the Japanese took the island, your 22-year-old grandfather asked a gunner on the Air Force transport named Winaki, a man he had never met before in his life, to deliver to his infant son, who he had never seen in the flesh, his gold watch. 3 days later, your granddad was dead, but Winaki kept his word. After the war was over, he paid a visit to your grandmother, delivering to your infant father his dad's gold watch. This watch was on your daddy's wrist when he was shot down over Hanoi. He was captured and put into a Vietnamese prison camp. Now, he knew that if the gooks ever saw the watch, it'll be confiscated, it'll be taken away. The way your dad looked at it, that watch, it was your birthright. He'd be damned if any slopes were gonna put their greasy hands on his boy's birthright. So he hid it in the one place he could hide something, in his ass. 5 long years he wore this watch up his ass. Then when he died of dysentery, he gave me the watch, and I hid this uncomfortable hunk of metal up my ass for 2 years. Then, after 7 years, I was sent home to my family. And now, little man, I give this watch to you.